A human remained at the side of the alien queen's daughter after she returned. The distant starfield stretched endlessly, a canvas of black pierced with glittering lights. On the outer rim of the Veyara galaxy, the great space station of Aranthia hung silently, orbiting a pale blue planet. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked and departed, their hulls gleaming under the station's bright lights. For years, the station had been quiet, its calm interrupted only by routine arrivals and departures. But today, the stillness held tension. Everyone aboard sensed it, even the humans who were few and far between in the station's busy corridors. Captain Elias stood near the observation deck, hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the space lanes. He was a human, a navigator and strategist known across multiple sectors for his daring and intelligence. He was not part of any alien council, nor did he hold a position of political power. Yet, wherever danger lurked, he had a way of being in the right place at the right time. Today, that skill would be tested in a way he could never have imagined. Elia's sharp eyes caught the faint shimmer of a ship approaching from the outer system. It was old, its hull scratched and dented, engines flickering irregularly. The ship moved slowly but steadily, a lone traveler returning from the unknown. His heart stirred with a mixture of anticipation and caution. Whoever was aboard would arrive with stories, secrets, or perhaps danger. The human instinct for curiosity mixed with caution ran deep in him, making him tense yet ready. Inside the council chambers of the station, the alien ministers were in heated debate. The alien queen's daughter, Princess Lyra, had been missing for years. Her disappearance had left the empire in uncertainty. Alliances had shifted, and political tension had grown. Every diplomat and officer wondered what her return would mean. Some feared treachery. Others hoped she would come back stronger than before. The council chamber was a vast, circular room with walls that seemed to shimmer with soft colors, responding to the moods of those inside. Ministers paced back and forth, their long, elegant limbs moving with fluid grace. Their eyes glimmered with concern and curiosity. The queen herself sat at the head of the chamber, regal and composed, though even she could not hide the worry in her gaze. The silence was broken by the announcement of Lyra's ship entering the station's orbit. A murmur ran through the chamber. The ministers straightened and adjusted their robes, each trying to hide the tension that ran through them. Some whispered speculation. She must have faced dangers in the outer sectors. Others muttered, "How can we be sure she returned safely?" The queen raised a hand, signaling silence. Every eye turned to the observation deck, watching the approaching ship. Captain Elias had already moved to a docking control console. He watched the ship carefully, noting its damaged state. It did not match the usual patterns of imperial ships. Small burns and irregular engine signals suggested a long journey through hazardous sectors. He felt a twinge of concern. Whoever was aboard had survived against difficult odds, and survival often came at a cost. As the ship docked, the airlocks hissed, and the chamber doors opened to allow the arrival team to pass. Aliens of many shapes, sizes, and colors moved with efficiency, guided by their protocols. They were ready to receive their missing princess, but Elias noticed something unusual. The alien officers focused entirely on ceremony and protocol, leaving little room for personal concern. But humans, he knew, often acted differently. Sometimes instinct mattered more than procedure. When the ship's airlock opened, a figure stepped out. Princess Lyra moved with a mixture of strength and exhaustion. Her frame was slender but resilient, and her eyes held a depth that spoke of hardship and endurance. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was disheveled, and small scratches marked her skin, evidence of the struggles she had faced in the past years. The council members gasped softly. She was alive. She had returned. Lyra's gaze swept the chamber, landing on the assembly of ministers, advisors, and council officials. Her eyes were sharp, assessing each one. She did not look afraid, though there was fatigue in her posture. She had survived, and that survival had changed her. She moved with careful steps, ignoring the ceremonial greetings as if searching for something or someone. Elia stepped forward, noticing small signs others did not. The subtle tremor in her hand, the faint tension in her shoulders, the quiet exhaustion masked beneath her composure. Many would see only the princess herself, but he saw the human need beneath the alien form, a need for reassurance, safety, and understanding. Without hesitation, he offered assistance. "Princess Lyra," he said, his voice calm and steady, "allow me to help you." A hush fell across the room. The council members looked at him in shock. Humans rarely spoke directly to royalty, and never in such a manner. Protocol dictated distance, respect, and hierarchy, yet the princess did not recoil. Her eyes met his, and for a moment there was understanding. She nodded ever so slightly, a silent agreement that he could accompany her. Elias moved closer, offering his arm. She accepted it, and together they began to walk toward the waiting transport. Ministers whispered among themselves, unsure if they should intervene. Some saw it as a breach of etiquette. Others saw it as a necessary response to circumstances that no protocol could fully cover. The transport moved swiftly through the station corridors, the hum of its engines filling the air. Lyra remained silent, letting Elias guide her with gentle firmness. He noticed every small detail, her careful steps, the subtle wince as she adjusted her posture, the way she avoided sudden movements. He understood without needing words. She had endured challenges that left marks both visible and invisible. Finally, they reached a quiet chamber within the palace, a space reserved for recovery and observation. It was large and softly lit, filled with comfortable furnishings and calming light. Aliens rarely valued comfort over function, but this space was designed to soothe the mind and body. Elias helped Lyra settle into a seat, ensuring she was comfortable without making her feel patronized. "You don't have to speak if you don't want to," he said quietly. "Take your time." Lyra's eyes softened slightly. She had expected orders, demands, and inquiries, but not patience, not quiet presence, not human understanding. She let out a slow breath, a weight lifted ever so slightly from her shoulders. She realized that while many had returned to her side expecting deference, here was one who simply offered support. Over the next hours, the palace buzzed with activity outside the chamber. Ministers and advisors debated her next steps, security was heightened, and communications were sent to neighboring sectors. But inside the chamber, time slowed. Elias remained at her side, offering small comforts, a glass of water, a soft blanket, and quiet company. He did not probe, he did not demand explanations. He simply stayed, and in that simple act he offered something more valuable than any weapon or strategy. He offered trust. As the night deepened, Lyra's eyes began to droop. She had not rested properly for years, and exhaustion weighed heavily. Elias noticed and gently urged her to rest fully. She allowed herself to lean back, closing her eyes. The quiet presence of the human beside her felt reassuring. He was not a guard or advisor. He was a companion in a universe where she had been alone for far too long. The palace, vast and formal, felt less intimidating with him near. The shadows of the room stretched long, but they did not frighten her. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of security she had not experienced since leaving her home. Elias, observing her sleeping, reflected silently on the human capacity for loyalty and courage. He thought about how humans could survive and adapt in conditions that even the most advanced alien civilizations might find overwhelming. The hours passed quietly. Outside the chamber, the palace remained tense, but within, the bond between human and alien began to grow. Words were few, but understanding flowed between them. Trust, Elias knew, was earned not by titles or ceremonies, but by consistent actions and quiet presence. Lyra's survival had proven her resilience, but Elia's steady companionship allowed her to begin healing in ways no protocol or political maneuver could achieve. When morning light filtered through the large windows, painting the chamber in shades of gold and silver, Lyra awoke slowly. Elias was still there, seated nearby, ready to respond to her needs. She blinked, adjusting to the light, and met his eyes. A faint smile touched her lips, a silent acknowledgement of gratitude and recognition. She did not need to speak. He understood, and in that quiet moment the foundation was laid. The galaxy beyond the palace walls remained uncertain, filled with potential threats and political intrigue. But here, in this chamber, a human remained at the side of the alien queen's daughter. Not out of obligation or duty, but out of choice, loyalty, and the quiet strength that made humans remarkable. As the day began and the palace stirred to life, Lyra knew one thing with certainty. With Elias at her side, she would face the challenges ahead not alone, but with courage and trust. And the Empire would witness something extraordinary, a human standing steadfastly beside royalty, unafraid, unwavering, and exceptional in ways no alien protocol could define. The palace hummed with activity as Princess Lyra began her first full day back from the unknown reaches of space. Servants moved quietly, attending to their duties with precision, while the Alien Council convened to discuss matters of governance and security. Yet, despite the palace's grandeur and bustle, Lyra felt a lingering weight. Memories of her long absence pressed upon her, and even the bright corridors and polished walls could not fully chase them away. Captain Elias remained at her side, as he had the previous night. His presence was steady and calm, a quiet anchor in a sea of tension and expectation. While the council debated strategy and the palace staff fussed over ceremony, Elias observed Lyra closely. He noticed the slight stiffness in her movements, the way she flinched at sudden noises, and the occasional faraway look in her eyes. These were signs of trauma, small cracks in an otherwise composed exterior, and he recognized them immediately. Lyra sat in her chamber, gazing at the intricate designs that adorned the walls. The patterns shimmered faintly under the soft lighting, reflecting centuries of artistry and culture. Yet, none of this beauty could distract her from the memories that surfaced unbidden. She had endured long months of uncertainty, traversing alien territories hostile and indifferent, surviving dangers that most of her people could not even imagine. And now, back in the palace, she realized the challenges were only beginning. Elias stepped quietly into the room, carrying a small tray with water and a light meal. He placed it on a low table near her and offered a gentle nod. "You need nourishment," he said simply. "Your body and mind both need it." Lyra glanced at the food and then at him. She hesitated, unused to such direct concern. In her world, assistance was often accompanied by expectation or obligation, but Elias offered nothing except presence and care. Slowly, she accepted the meal, taking small bites as she tried to regain her strength. The morning passed in a mixture of quiet and observation. Lyra's chamber became a refuge from the demands of court life. She spoke little, conserving her energy and processing the flood of emotions that had returned with her. Elias remained nearby, reading reports from the council, planning contingencies, and occasionally offering suggestions in his calm, measured voice. It was during one of these moments that Lyra spoke. Her voice was soft, hesitant, but steady enough to convey her thoughts. "They ask so many questions, yet none of them ask how I survived," she said, looking at the floor. Elias nodded. "Survival is often overlooked," he replied. "They are concerned with politics and appearances. Few take the time to understand what it really takes to endure." Lyra looked up at him, studying his face. There was a quiet honesty in his expression, a transparency that seemed rare in any being she had encountered. "You do not ask," she said. "Why?" He considered for a moment before answering. "Because some stories are not mine to own." I can support, guide, and protect, but your experience is yours alone. I can listen, but I do not need to probe. She was struck by the simplicity and clarity of his words. Humans, she realized, often acted differently than the beings she had known. Their courage was paired with compassion, their strength with patience. She had faced treachery and deceit in her travels, yet here was someone whose presence alone brought calm, without expectation or manipulation. Later in the day, the council summoned her for a formal meeting. Ministers filed into the chamber, their expressions a mix of relief, curiosity, and lingering suspicion. Elias accompanied Lyra at her side, a silent guardian whose presence unsettled some of the more conservative council members. The meeting began with protocol, discussions of border security, trade negotiations, and the political balance among allied systems. The ministers spoke at length, often overlooking the subtle signs of fatigue and distress in the princess. But Elias noticed each glance, each shift in posture, and each falter in her voice. He offered quiet reminders and small, whispered guidance, allowing Lyra to maintain composure while avoiding the exhaustion of explaining herself repeatedly. A counselor leaned forward, voice sharp. "Princess, your absence has created instability. We must know what you encountered and ensure there is no lingering threat to the Empire." Lyra's eyes flicked briefly to Elias, seeking reassurance. He met her gaze steadily, giving a subtle nod. She straightened, drawing on the human's confidence, and replied in measured tones. "I encountered challenges beyond our borders, yes, but I have returned, and I am ready to fulfill my responsibilities." Questions of instability should be addressed through action, not suspicion. The council murmured among themselves. Her words were firm, yet Elias could see the strain behind them. It was clear she had not yet fully recovered. After the meeting, Elias guided her back to her chamber, ensuring she had water, light food, and a place to rest. In the privacy of her quarters, Lyra finally allowed herself to speak more openly. She recounted fragments of her journey, hostile regions controlled by pirates, sectors where survival depended on cunning and luck, and moments when hope seemed impossible. Elias listened quietly, never interrupting, offering only occasional acknowledgement to encourage her. "You survived on more than skill," he observed quietly. "You survived because you did not give up. That is remarkable." Lyra considered this. Few had praised her for resilience, most focused on outcomes or political consequences. "I survived because I had no choice," she said softly, "but having someone beside me now makes a difference. It makes me feel less alone." Elias' gaze was steady, warm, and reassuring. "You are not alone anymore, and you do not have to be." The days that followed unfolded with a delicate balance of rest, recovery, and preparation. Lyra began training lightly to regain her physical strength, practicing movements that were necessary for both diplomacy and self-defense. Elias supervised discreetly, correcting her posture, suggesting adjustments, and encouraging caution without smothering her independence. It was during one of these sessions that the first test of their partnership emerged. A sudden alarm rang through the palace, signaling an unauthorized approach near the outer perimeter. Alien guards scrambled, and the council demanded immediate reports. Lyra's eyes widened slightly, not from fear, but from recognition of the potential danger she could face. Elias moved quickly. "Stay here," he said firmly, though his tone carried calm authority. He coordinated with the palace security, analyzing the approach pattern and predicting the intruders' moves with precision. Using tactics the aliens had not considered, he directed the response team efficiently, ensuring minimal risk to the palace and its inhabitants. The threat was neutralized swiftly, with intruders captured or repelled before they could reach sensitive areas. The council, initially skeptical of Elias' methods, watched in stunned silence. His unconventional approach, combining observation, intuition, and quick decision-making, had prevented what could have been a disaster. Lyra observed the entire process, admiration growing in her eyes. Humans, she realized, could navigate uncertainty with a unique combination of courage and logic. They acted without hesitation, yet considered consequences carefully. She had seen alien tactics fail in unpredictable circumstances, yet here was someone whose actions bridged the gap between instinct and strategy. After the incident, Elias returned to her side. "The palace is secure," he said simply, "but you must be careful. There may be others testing boundaries." Lyra nodded, absorbing the lesson. She began to understand that survival was not only about facing danger, but also about trust and partnership. Elia's presence allowed her to regain confidence without feeling controlled or constrained. For the first time since her return, she felt capable of moving forward. In the quiet moments that followed, she began sharing more personal reflections. She spoke of the alien cultures she had encountered, the unexpected kindnesses of strangers, and the harshness of those who sought to exploit her absence. Elias listened, offering insight when appropriate, but mostly allowing her space to process and articulate her experiences. It became clear that the bond between them was evolving. Trust was no longer one-sided. Lyra relied on Elias not only for protection but also for understanding. She began to see humans differently, not just as outsiders or tools of diplomacy, but as beings capable of profound loyalty, courage, and moral clarity. One evening, as the pale light of Aranthia's twin moons filtered through her chamber windows, Lyra turned to Elias. "Why do you stay?" she asked quietly. "No one asked you to do this. No one expects it." Elias paused, considering the question. "Because I choose to," he replied simply. "I have seen what matters in the universe, and loyalty, courage, and compassion are worth standing by. You survived when few believed you could. That deserves respect, and I will not abandon it." Lyra's eyes softened, and a small, almost imperceptible smile appeared. Few words had ever conveyed such trust and reassurance. She realized that the human beside her was extraordinary, not because of strength alone, nor because of political influence, but because of the steadfast commitment to doing what was right, regardless of risk or recognition. That night, as the palace settled into quiet, Elias remained nearby. He watched over her as she slept, ensuring she could rest without worry. In a galaxy filled with danger, intrigue, and uncertainty, he was a constant, a living reminder that humanity had a unique ability to endure, adapt, and support others with integrity. And for Lyra, that presence was more valuable than any armor, weapon, or political maneuver. It was the beginning of a new chapter, where human courage and understanding would stand beside alien royalty, shaping the future in ways both subtle and profound. The bond they were forging would become a beacon, not only for the Empire but for the galaxy beyond, showing that trust, compassion, and courage could transcend species, hierarchy, and distance. And as long as Captain Elias remained by her side, Lyra knew she could face the challenges ahead with renewed strength and confidence. The palace had grown quieter in the days following Lyra's return. The corridors, which once echoed with whispers of intrigue and speculation, now carried a more subdued tone. Yet beneath the calm, tension simmered. The shadow of Lyra's absence had not entirely vanished. Some ministers questioned her ability to lead after years away. Others feared that unknown enemies still lingered, waiting for the right moment to strike. Captain Elias remained ever at her side. While he had earned a place of quiet trust with Lyra, he still faced skepticism from those who did not understand humans. Aliens often relied on rigid hierarchies and strict protocol, and his methods, observation, intuition, and independent decision-making, challenged their expectations. But he ignored the whispers and stayed focused on the one priority that mattered: Lyra's safety and recovery. Lyra had begun to venture outside her chamber more frequently. The palace gardens were a place of beauty and reflection, with exotic plants and shimmering fountains that reflected the twin moons of Aranthea. Here, she could breathe freely, think clearly, and start piecing together the experiences that had weighed on her for so long. Elias followed at a discreet distance, allowing her space while remaining close enough to intervene if needed. She often stopped to touch the leaves of alien flora, watching the subtle movement of their bioluminescent patterns. "It is strange," she said one morning, voice soft as the sunlight warmed the garden. "I remember being among strange worlds, yet nothing felt as strange as the calm here. Yet it feels safe, in a way I have not felt in years." Elias nodded. "Safety is not only a matter of walls and guards," he said. "It is also in knowing someone is watching, listening, and ready to act. You are not alone here." Lyra turned to look at him, a faint smile touching her lips. "You speak like humans understand danger better than anyone else," she said. "Perhaps it is true. You seem prepared for everything, even things we could not imagine." He shrugged lightly. "Preparation is not magic. It is observation, logic, and willingness to act when needed. Humans are adaptable. We see patterns others miss, and we do not always wait for permission." She considered this. Her experiences had taught her that alien hierarchies were slow to respond, rigid in thought. But humans, she realized, approach challenges differently, with courage, creativity, and decisive action. It was not only their strength but their unpredictability that made them exceptional. That afternoon, a disturbance reached the palace. A messenger arrived from a border outpost, reporting unusual activity in a neighboring sector. Alien traders had gone missing, and communications were cut abruptly. Some counselors dismissed the reports as overcaution, but Elias' instincts told him otherwise. Lyra watched as he studied the data. He moved quickly, analyzing patterns of movement, energy signatures, and anomalies in the communications logs. His fingers traced the holographic map with precision, connecting threads that others had overlooked. "There is more at play than random accidents," he said. "We should investigate before waiting for the situation to worsen." The council debated, but Lyra interrupted. "We cannot ignore potential threats. We must act even if others hesitate." Her voice carried authority, strengthened by the confidence she had regained with Elias' guidance. Elias placed a hand briefly on her shoulder, a gesture of reassurance. "I will go with you," he said. "Together, we can assess the situation and respond appropriately." The next day, they boarded a sleek patrol craft, leaving the palace for the first time since her return. The ship moved swiftly through the void, its engines humming quietly. Lyra watched the stars pass by, a sense of determination building inside her. She had survived alone for years, but now she had a companion who offered not only protection but understanding, someone who could help her navigate the uncertainties ahead. Upon reaching the sector, they discovered signs of a struggle. Cargo ships were abandoned, energy shields damaged, and evidence suggested that a rogue faction had been responsible. Elias moved with efficiency, coordinating with local security forces and devising strategies that balanced caution with boldness. Lyra observed, learning from his methods while offering insights from her own experiences during her absence. The rogue faction was clever, using stealth technology and unpredictable tactics. Yet Elias anticipated their moves, predicting patterns they did not expect. Lyra followed his lead, her confidence growing as she realized how human intuition complemented her knowledge of alien behavior. Together, they located a small hidden base where the missing traders were being held. In the tense moments that followed, Elias devised a plan. He instructed Lyra to create a distraction, using her authority to draw attention while he coordinated a precise rescue operation. The execution was flawless. Traders were freed without bloodshed, and the rogue faction's plan was foiled. The aliens observing were astonished at the efficiency of the operation. Humans, they realized, could not be underestimated. Back in the palace, Lyra received praise for her decisive action, but she was quick to highlight Elia's role. "Without his guidance and insight," she said to the council, "we could not have succeeded. Humans see what others do not and act when action is required. We are fortunate to have him with us." Some counselors nodded reluctantly, understanding that this human was extraordinary. Others murmured, still skeptical, but none could deny the outcome. Elias, as always, remained calm, quietly observing the reactions without pride or arrogance. His satisfaction came not from recognition, but from seeing Lyra regain her strength and confidence. In the following days, Lyra and Elias continued to work closely. They reviewed reports, trained lightly, and planned strategies to strengthen palace security. Their interactions grew more seamless, a partnership built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. Lyra shared more about her experiences during her absence: encounters with hostile species, survival tactics in harsh environments, and moments of both fear and hope. Elias listened without judgment, offering guidance only when appropriate. He encouraged her to analyze situations logically, to trust her instincts, and to act decisively. Under his mentorship, she began to see herself not only as a princess, but as a capable leader who could navigate challenges independently while relying on the support of allies. One evening, while reviewing maps of the sector, a message arrived from an allied planet. Their ambassador reported signs of unusual activity near a strategic trade route. Elias studied the message carefully, tracing patterns and potential threats. "We must act quickly," he said. "Delay could allow this to escalate into a larger conflict." Lyra agreed. "Then we will not wait," she said firmly. "Prepare the team. We move at dawn." As the sun of Aranthia rose, casting warm light across the palace, Lyra and Elias led their team into the sector. Their presence was commanding, their coordination precise. The rogue faction attempted another attack, but this time they were met with a force that combined alien knowledge and human ingenuity. The confrontation was brief but decisive. Using strategies that leveraged unpredictability and quick thinking, Elias guided the team to success without unnecessary conflict. Traders were secured, routes protected, and the rogue faction's influence weakened. Lyra's confidence soared, and she realized that humans' greatest strength lay not only in physical capability, but in their ability to adapt, think critically, and act boldly. Returning to the palace, Lyra reflected on the events. She had survived so much alone, yet with Elias by her side, she felt an entirely new sense of empowerment. His presence allowed her to regain control, to rebuild her confidence, and to see the potential of her own leadership more clearly. That evening, in the quiet of her chamber, she spoke to him softly. "I have faced dangers I thought would break me," she said. "Yet with you, I feel capable, not because you do things for me, but because you help me see what I can do for myself." Elias nodded. "That is what humans do. We act, we observe, and we support. But true strength comes from within. You have always had it, you just needed to trust yourself again." Lyra's eyes glimmered with determination. "Then I will not waste it. We will protect the empire, strengthen our alliances, and ensure that no threat can take advantage of my absence again." Elias smiled faintly. "And I will remain at your side as long as you need." The palace, once a place of rigid formality and subtle suspicion, had begun to change. The bond between human and princess became a symbol of courage, loyalty, and trust. Aliens who once doubted humans now observed them with a mixture of respect and curiosity. In the quiet moments, Lyra realized that her journey had not only returned her to her home, but had also revealed the extraordinary potential of humanity in a galaxy filled with uncertainty. And as the moons rose over Aranthia, casting silver light across the palace gardens, Lyra knew that with Elias by her side, she could face any challenge. Together, they would navigate the shadows of the past, the threats of the present, and the uncertainties of the future. The galaxy, vast and unpredictable, was no longer a place to fear. It was a place where trust, courage, and understanding could shine. The days after their latest mission passed with a rhythm of preparation and careful observation. Princess Lyra's confidence continued to grow, yet she could not ignore the sense of unease that lingered in the palace. The rogue factions they had encountered were likely part of a larger network, one that sought to destabilize the empire in subtle and dangerous ways. Even in her restored position, Lyra knew that vigilance would be necessary, and she would need allies she could trust. Captain Elias remained her constant companion. While others saw him as unusual, even inappropriate for someone of human origin to be so close to royalty, Lyra valued his presence more than any counselor's advice. His calm reasoning, quick thinking, and unwavering loyalty were qualities she had come to rely on, and she had begun to see him as more than just a protector. He was a true partner in both thought and action. One morning, as the sun of Aranthea rose over the palace spires, a new alarm sounded. The air was tense, and palace security moved quickly to investigate. This time, the threat was closer than they had expected. A group of highly trained infiltrators had breached the perimeter and were moving toward the central halls. They were silent, precise, and obviously experienced, indicating that this was no random attack. Elias acted immediately, assessing the layout of the palace and the possible routes the intruders could take. He moved swiftly to Lyra's side, his presence steadying her even as her instincts screamed caution. "Stay close," he instructed calmly. "Do not let them see you alone. We will handle this together." Lyra nodded, her confidence bolstered by his unwavering tone. She had trained for situations like this in theory, but now the threat was real, and she could feel her heartbeat quicken. Yet Elias' presence reminded her to think clearly, to use strategy instead of panic. The intruders split into two groups, one heading toward the council chambers, the other toward the royal quarters. Elias quickly devised a plan. He positioned palace guards to intercept one group, while he and Lyra addressed the other. His strategy relied not on sheer force but on anticipation, exploiting the intruders' assumptions about human and alien behavior. As they moved through the quiet corridors, Lyra marveled at Elias' ability to read the situation. He noticed the smallest details, the pattern of footsteps, the faint hum of energy weapons, and the subtle shifts in shadows. His calculations were precise, and his instincts almost perfect. He guided her along a hidden path, avoiding detection while keeping a clear line to confront the intruders if necessary. They reached a corridor where the intruders were attempting to breach the royal archives. Elias whispered instructions, and Lyra followed with exacting precision. Using their combined knowledge, they managed to trap the intruders in a small chamber. Elias took the lead, blocking exits, while Lyra activated security measures that she had learned from her own experiences during her absence. The confrontation was swift. The intruders, caught off guard by the coordinated human-alien strategy, surrendered without resistance. The security teams arrived moments later to take control. Lyra and Elias emerged unscathed, though tense and alert. The council would later praise the operation, but Lyra knew the true value lay in their quick thinking and teamwork. Returning to her chambers, Lyra allowed herself a moment of reflection. The danger was real, but she felt empowered. With Elias by her side, she could confront threats she might have feared alone. His presence reminded her that leadership was not about isolation, but about trust and collaboration. The days that followed brought a mix of recovery and preparation. The rogue faction had been a wake-up call, reminding Lyra that threats could come from anywhere, and that vigilance was as important as courage. She began training more intensely, refining her skills and learning to anticipate dangers with the same precision Elias used. Elias encouraged her to think strategically. Leadership is not only about reacting, he explained one afternoon as they reviewed the palace defenses. "It is about anticipating what others might do and preparing for it. You have survived threats before, Lyra. Now we prepare so that they never catch you off guard again." Lyra listened carefully, absorbing his lessons. She had spent years relying on instinct and survival skills during her absence, but Elia's approach added a layer of foresight she had never considered. She realized that her past experiences, combined with his guidance, made her uniquely capable of handling the challenges that lay ahead. One evening, a warning arrived from a nearby sector. A message, cryptic and urgent, indicated that the rogue faction was regrouping and planning another operation. This time, their goal was not just disruption but direct attack on the palace itself. The news sent a ripple of tension through the council. Many ministers panicked, suggesting defensive measures that would isolate Lyra from her people. Elias, however, remained calm. He studied the information carefully, cross-referencing it with known patterns of the rogue faction. "They are testing the limits of our response," he said. "They expect hesitation. We will act decisively, and we will not give them the advantage of fear." Lyra nodded, drawing strength from his confidence. She began planning with him, contributing insights from her knowledge of the faction's behavior and tactics. Their collaboration became seamless, a combination of human intuition and alien experience. The council watched in awe as a human, and a princess developed strategies that no single species could have conceived alone. When the attack finally came, it was swift and coordinated. The rogue faction struck at multiple points simultaneously, attempting to overwhelm the palace's defenses. But Elias and Lyra were ready. They moved through the palace with precision, directing security teams, reinforcing weak points, and neutralizing threats with minimal confrontation. The human's adaptability and quick thinking were crucial. He anticipated the intruders' moves, countering them before they could act. Lyra, empowered by his guidance, took decisive actions herself, directing personnel and activating systems she had only recently mastered. Together, they transformed what could have been chaos into a controlled and successful defense. By the end of the attack, the rogue faction had been repelled, their forces captured or scattered. The palace was secure, and the council breathed a collective sigh of relief. Yet the true victory was not in defeating the attackers, but in demonstrating the power of collaboration, trust, and courage. Lyra reflected on the events, realizing how far she had come since her return. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and political intrigue, yet she had not only survived but grown stronger. Her confidence in her leadership had returned, reinforced by the steady presence of Elias, whose humanity had shown her the value of courage, loyalty, and insight. In the quiet hours that followed, Lyra and Elias met in her chambers. The moonlight poured through the windows, casting silver light across the room. "We did well," she said softly, her voice carrying both relief and admiration. "I could not have managed it alone." Elias shook his head. "You managed perfectly," he replied. "I guided, yes, but the strength came from you. You have regained control and you acted decisively. That is what leadership requires: courage, judgment, and trust in yourself." Lyra smiled faintly. "I am learning," she said, "and having you here, it makes the lessons easier to understand." Elias remained silent for a moment, watching her. "Humans act in ways that sometimes surprise others," he said, "but the true measure of strength is not in force alone. It is in loyalty, courage, and the willingness to do what is right, even when it is difficult." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She realized that she had found more than a protector in Elias. She had found a guide, a partner, and a companion whose presence reminded her of what humanity could offer to the galaxy: courage, ingenuity, and moral clarity. As the night deepened, Lyra finally allowed herself to rest fully. Elias stayed nearby, vigilant yet unobtrusive, ensuring her safety and comfort. In the silence, She felt a profound sense of trust and reassurance, knowing that with him at her side, she could face whatever challenges the future might bring. The palace, once a place of tension and uncertainty, had become a space of resilience and collaboration. Aliens and humans alike observed the bond between the princess and her companion, recognizing the extraordinary qualities that humans brought to the galaxy. Courage, adaptability, and moral clarity were traits that inspired respect, and Elias embodied them fully. And so, as the twin moons of Aranthea cast their gentle glow across the palace gardens, Lyra knew that the future, while uncertain, held promise. With Elias by her side, she could confront threats, rebuild alliances, and strengthen her leadership. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, demonstrating that courage, loyalty, and trust could bridge species, cultures, and expectations. The galaxy beyond remained unpredictable, filled with dangers both known and hidden. Yet in the quiet moments within the palace walls, a human and a princess had forged a bond that would endure. And in that bond lay hope, a reminder that even in the vast, indifferent expanse of space, courage, wisdom, and compassion could prevail. The palace had settled into a tense calm after the most recent threat was repelled. For days there had been no disturbances, but the memory of the attacks lingered in every corridor, every chamber, and in the minds of those who served the Empire. Princess Lyra moved with renewed confidence, yet her senses remained alert. She knew that peace in the galaxy was always temporary, and that vigilance was a constant necessity. Captain Elias had been at her side through every challenge. While others doubted humans' abilities, Lyra had come to rely on his insight, courage, and calm decisiveness. His presence had become more than just protection. It had become a source of guidance, a quiet force that strengthened her confidence and judgment. She knew that the next test could come at any moment, and she felt ready to face it. The council convened in the grand chamber, a vast circular hall where walls shimmered with the soft glow of Aranthea's twin moons. Ministers and advisors gathered, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and respect. Word of the recent defense had spread quickly, and many were eager to hear the princess's account. Lyra entered with Elias at her side. Their appearance together drew murmurs from the council. Some were surprised that a human had remained so close to royalty, while others recognized the exceptional results of their collaboration. Elias walked with quiet confidence, observant of every detail, while Lyra's presence radiated authority tempered with wisdom. She spoke first, her voice steady and commanding. "The threats we have faced are only part of a larger challenge. The rogue factions we encountered are connected, and they will continue to test our defenses, but we are prepared. We have learned, adapted, and strengthened our strategies." The council listened intently. Ministers who had doubted her capabilities before now realized that her leadership was informed not only by royal duty, but also by experience, insight, and resilience. Elias' role was evident, though he remained understated, guiding without overshadowing the princess's authority. A counselor cleared his throat, hesitant but respectful. "Princess, your actions have been remarkable. The human beside you, his methods are unconventional, yet effective. How do you view this partnership?" Lyra's eyes met Elias briefly before returning to the council. "He has remained at my side because of choice, not obligation," she said. "His insight, courage, and loyalty have strengthened my ability to lead. Humans bring qualities to the galaxy that complement and enhance our own. This partnership demonstrates that cooperation across species can achieve results no single group could manage alone." The room fell silent. It was rare for a member of royalty to speak so plainly about the value of another species, and rarer still to recognize a human so openly. Some counselors exchanged uncertain glances, but even they could not deny the truth of her words. Elias, as always, maintained his calm demeanor, letting Lyra's recognition stand without comment. In the days that followed, the palace experienced a shift. Security protocols were updated, defenses strengthened, and intelligence networks expanded. Lyra and Elias worked tirelessly, training teams, reviewing reports, and anticipating potential threats. Their efforts not only reinforced the palace's safety, but also inspired confidence throughout the empire. Aliens who had once doubted humans now observed them with respect, curious about their methods and abilities. One evening, as the twin moons cast silver light across the palace gardens, Lyra and Elias walked in quiet reflection. The events of the past weeks had taken their toll, yet both felt a sense of accomplishment and readiness for whatever came next. "You have changed the way the council sees humans," Lyra said softly, her gaze fixed on the glowing flowers. "They will think differently now, not just of you, but of what humans can do for the Empire." Elias smiled faintly. "That is not why I act," he replied. "I do what I can because it is right, because it supports those who cannot always rely on themselves. Humans have always adapted, endured, and protected what matters. Recognition is secondary." Lyra nodded, understanding the depth of his words. She had witnessed courage, ingenuity, and loyalty in countless forms, but Elias embodied all of them in ways that inspired her to lead more boldly, think more strategically, and act more decisively. A message arrived shortly afterward, urgent and coded. A distant system reported disturbances, pirates attempting to seize control of a critical trade route. The timing was concerning, suggesting that rogue factions were attempting to stretch the Empire's defenses and create instability. Lyra and Elias prepared to depart immediately, organizing a small, elite team to assess and respond to the threat. As the patrol craft lifted off the palace platform, Lyra felt a sense of determination she had not known before. She had faced danger, isolation, and political pressure, yet she had emerged stronger. Elia's presence had been a steadying force, but her growth was her own. She was no longer a princess defined by title alone. She was a leader shaped by experience, courage, and insight. The journey through space was tense but purposeful. Elias analyzed the sector's readings, predicting pirate movements and anticipating potential ambushes. Lyra contributed her knowledge of alien tactics and cultural behaviors, and together they developed a plan that relied on speed, strategy, and precise coordination. When they arrived at the troubled trade route, they discovered a fleet of pirate ships attempting to blockade critical supply lines. The situation was dangerous, but Elias and Lyra moved decisively. Using a combination of strategy and bold maneuvering, they neutralized the pirate threat without unnecessary destruction. Ships were captured, resources secured, and the trade route reopened. Throughout the operation, Lyra's confidence grew. She coordinated with teams, made rapid decisions, and anticipated outcomes with clarity. Elias observed her closely, offering guidance only when necessary, allowing her to act independently while ensuring the safety of the mission. Together, they demonstrated that humans and aliens could work as equals, combining unique skills to achieve extraordinary results. Returning to the palace, the council hailed their success. Lyra addressed them with authority, praising her team while highlighting the importance of cross-species collaboration. She spoke of loyalty, courage, and the ability to adapt in the face of unexpected challenges. Her words resonated deeply, inspiring a new perspective within the council and among palace staff. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra and Elias continued to strengthen the Empire's defenses and diplomatic relationships. Their partnership became a symbol of what could be achieved through trust, cooperation, and mutual respect. Aliens and humans alike began to appreciate the qualities that each species brought to the table, and the Empire's unity grew stronger as a result. In private moments, Lyra reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had returned from the unknown, faced dangers that would have defeated many, and found a companion whose humanity had reshaped her perspective. Elias had remained at her side not out of obligation, but choice, loyalty, and courage. He had shown her that strength was not measured by rank or title alone, but by action, compassion, and unwavering support. One evening, as the moons of Aranthea bathed the palace in silver light, Lyra and Elias stood together on a balcony overlooking the gardens. The palace was quiet, the hum of activity softened by distance. She turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "I have learned much since my return," she said. "About myself, about leadership, and about humans. You have shown me courage, loyalty, and wisdom in ways I could not have imagined." Elias met her gaze steadily. "And you have shown me that leadership is not about power alone. It is about responsibility, judgment, and trust. You have grown stronger because you chose to face the challenges before you, not because anyone forced you to." Lyra smiled faintly, a mixture of gratitude and determination in her eyes. "Then we will continue together. Whatever threats arise, whatever challenges we face, I know that with you by my side we can overcome them." Elias nodded. "Together," he agreed. The galaxy remained vast and unpredictable, filled with dangers, intrigue, and uncertainty. Yet within the palace of Aranthea, a human and a princess had forged a bond that transcended species, rank, and expectation. They had faced danger, political intrigue, and uncertainty, emerging stronger and more united than ever. Their story became a testament to the power of trust, courage, and collaboration, a reminder that even in a universe of endless stars and silent voids, loyalty and bravery could shine brightly. Lyra and Elias had changed more than the palace or the empire. They had changed perceptions. Humans were no longer outsiders to be doubted or overlooked. They were allies, capable of courage, strategy, and loyalty that inspired hope and confidence. The empire now recognized that partnership between human ingenuity and alien experience could achieve extraordinary outcomes. And as the twin moons of Aranthea cast their gentle glow over the palace, Lyra and Elias stood side by side, ready for the future. They had faced threats, uncertainty, and the weight of expectation, yet they had emerged victorious. The galaxy, vast and unpredictable, would continue to challenge them, but together they were unstoppable. For the first time in years, Princess Lyra felt truly at home, not only in the palace, not only within the empire, but in the knowledge that she was not alone. A human had remained at her side, unwavering, loyal, and courageous, proving that even in the darkest moments, trust, courage, and determination could illuminate the path forward. And so, the empire looked toward a future strengthened by unity, guided by courage, and inspired by the extraordinary bond between a human and the alien queen's daughter. In every challenge to come, they would face the unknown together, proving that even across species and distance, trust and loyalty could shape destinies and change the galaxy itself.